zindagi. So it is a great privilege to have such unique heritage. 50% Africa, 50% India. India, I have done duty to holiday, emancipation and arrival day. Since Patel Rosak made that journey, 150 years gone already. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim or Christian, let's walk this land hand in hand. We could only prosper if we try. Brotherhood of the boat. Brotherhood of the boat. Kumaye, Zindawe. Kumaye, Zindawe. Kumaye, Zindawe. Kumaye, Zindawe. For those who play in ignorance, talking about true African descendant, if you want to know the truth, take a trip back to your root. And somewhere on that journey, you go see a man in a dhoti, saying he prays in front of a chandi. Chandi.
Yes, indeed. Of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry. It is yesterday, Thursday. I'm running along the week or what? It is the Tuesday edition of the Corridor Transformation. Your host, LENNOX. Yes, I am behind the scenes. I am behind the camera, but nonetheless, we have a program that we must, of course, deliver to the people by necessity. And of course, you know what it is said about necessity. Necessity is what? The mother of invention. Let me repeat that. Necessity is the mother of invention. So when somebody believes that you are all stymied and that they have put hurdles in your way so that you will not be able to achieve the objective, particularly when it has to do with the advancement and the support of your fellow human beings, then they have another thing coming with somebody who is that determined and who is that committed to, of course, the development, in this case, of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, indeed. And of course, that introductory song, I think, is crucial and important. Let's say it again. Let's say it again.
So it is a great privilege to have such unique heritage. 50% Africa, 50% India. India, I have done duty to holiday, emancipation and arrival day. journey. 150 years gone already. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, let's walk this land hand in hand. We could only
yes, indeed. Whether you're Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, let's walk this road. And of course, we have several symbolism in Trinidad and Tobago's culture that will, of course, manifest all of these realities. We have, of course, as we just completed, Emancipation Day. Then we have, of course, Diwali coming. And, of course, we would have had Indian Arrival Day. And then, of course, not to be outdone, we also have, of course, a number of religiously oriented but nonetheless important cultural, what I consider to be iconic moments in Trinidad and Tobago. When, of course, we have Christmas and we celebrate, while it's not Christian oriented, but it must have been Christian inspired. After all, why it is you have Ash Wednesday? Why have Ash Wednesday? So therefore, Carnival, of course, is the melting pot that, of course, attracts all Trinbagonians. So, of course, this time check is just about 13 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock. We'll try to go for the 9 o'clock, the 1 hour, as stipulated, but you know that most likely we will go beyond. But, of course, the lines are open, 337-6940. 337-6940, that number is flashing across your screen. And, of course, we'll ask you to do one or two things because, as you know, children will be returning to school, and we have traditionally and culturally and morally and, of course, altruistically been assisting our fellow men and women. After all, as I said yesterday, I remember, of course, the old community council hymn. Yes, it was a national pleasure to, of course, speak of when I pass by. If I can help someone when I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Yes, indeed. We're going to have a bumper program tonight. Yes, indeed. Of course, a pleasant good night once again to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web. A pleasant good day to you. Yes, this is the Tuesday edition of the Corridor Transformation. Of course, I want to thank all of you who displayed that tremendous amount of patience. But I want to confess to you, and I want to make it clear, it was not the Corridor Transformation problem this morning, and therefore why we could not have carried in the way that we would have liked in totality from 6 to 9 o'clock the ground report. Let us get that clear. We recognize that the ground report is, of course, for want of a better term, the parent entity that gave rise to the vision of the Real Media TT, the Corridor Transformation, as well as, of course, the observers. But, of course, while I was being told behind the scene this morning and awaiting, of course, communication with the ground report, of course, coming out of the studios of Real Media TT, that is why Andy will be focusing there, because that is his baby. And, of course, the Corridor Transformation, my baby, LENNOX Smith, and the observers, of course, Michael Kerr's baby. And because of this circumstance, as I mentioned earlier, necessity being the mother of invention, and I was clear we may not have made it as pellucid as we ought to have in terms of why we were plunged into disarrangement, not disarrangement, THIS, and not DIS, right? In this THIS, this arrangement, is largely because we felt collectively and individually that we were, in a real sense, unjustly treated by asking us to, of course, by telling us that the ground report is discontinued on 104.7. Let's go straight to the lines immediately. Let's not waste time with that. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night.
Pleasant good night to you and everybody on the line.
Yes, indeed. Of course. Well. By now you should know that I know about the deputy that you call about the acting or the deputy auditor general that was sworn in. I know that you. Yes. So nothing to be alarmed about. Of course, the legal representative of the substantive auditor general simply said that she's on holiday. We know that there is more in the motor than the pestle. I'm not prepared to speculate at this time because, as I said this morning on the ground report, that I pay homage and tribute to those what we will call today whistleblowers within the system who see that the criminal behavior of Dr. Rowley and his miscreants, his team of individuals who are prepared, of course, to capture government and to be as toxic as possible and deliver nothing, they would, of course, give us the information and we will then, of course, do so in the fullness of time. Of course, eventually, they will confess that they were up to no damn good and that their conduct has always been sinister, wicked and evil and inimical to taxpayers, as we have seen in so many instances. So I thought I should just mention that before, of course, you make your formal introduction or contribution.
Well, LENNOX Smith.
Yes.
Right now, I will continue to be disappointed in the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Here's why.
Go ahead.
Tonight, on the news, I heard Yeltsin saying that more cases in the dengue fever going up in the population.
Mm-hmm.
And they are saying just and saying that the people of Trinidad and Tobago are not doing enough for the fight against dengue. They're not turning down the containers and stuff that keeping water in it for the mosquito and them to breed. And they have to give out 7 notice to 7 homeowners because they're not adhering to the regulation, so-called regulation that they put in place to fight dengue. LENNOX Smith, the Singh had to come and point for it to more please low by that hospital there.
Mm-hmm.
What should I have CPAP? They must take about 4 or 5 gangs and had them walking the backside off, cutting, painting, power washing, just name it, to bring the hospital to a sparkling something. I want to ask D.L. Singh, when he come tomorrow, it have one big dam in Egypt village, Point Fortin, almost the size of 2 stadium. What are they doing to fight against dengue where that is concerned? And then where the fire station is in T-shaped village, Point Fortin, across the road from the fire station. It have a whole area there like a rice field. They always have water. What the government is doing to minimize the spread of dengue, because they only want to blame the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and them not doing their part to do what they're supposed to do. Only want to blame the people for their incompetence. People of Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know what Rowley did when he went Ghana. Somebody had to go back Ghana and undo the evil that man have done to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because I will tell all of this, the majority of the people in this country underneath a serious evil spell right now. And this is based on history that I was taught back in the day when people was using Obia heavily to get what they want. Back in the 70s and probably the late 80s or early 80s. The country is underneath a demonic spell. Because these people and them keep blaming the citizen and not seeing in their eyes that they are the problem. When the hell the people of Trinidad and Tobago will stand up for something right in this country? All the pattern in all kind of different countries when they're doing anything, but the pattern the right thing, all they're not doing it. School going on open just now, and I show a lot of parents don't have the means to send their children to school because of the high cost of living. and all you want to see, all they paying them until all they dead. But trust me, half all they will get all the wish come true when the time comes. Lockdown and listening.
Yes, indeed. Well, of course, if they don't adhere and take heed of people like yourself, my friend, a young fella, I've met you before, they're certainly going to die. Whether it be from dengue, because, of course, week before last, I did mention the amount of cases, 666. I could never forget that number simply because it's 666. And then, of course, I had calls last week to say it was about 700 and about, I think 40 something. Don't hold me to it because I'm sure that that number has increased by now. And I have no doubt in my mind that if the DRC is now speaking about it, it means that it is much more than what we the public would know with respect, of course, to the number of cases. And indeed, they will try, of course, to hide the amount of deaths. But you see, you and the entire population must understand, because we were talking strategy this morning on the ground report, and we will continue, of course, what we were talking last night in terms of the OAS debacle once again, and the resistance of Dr. Rowley to denounce brutal and heinous human rights violations in Venezuela. But more significantly, if we say that what is happening in Venezuela is not our business, then you are living in a fool's paradise. Let me repeat that. If you say that what is happening in Venezuela is not affecting Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore we must not reference Venezuela, for whatever reason, I want to tell you that you are living in a fool's paradise simply because it's over 100,000 of them here competing with us for food, competing with us for shelter, competing with us for clothing, competing with us for employment opportunities, and of course medical services, and of course engaging in other activities that one can consider to be of an entrepreneurial nature, whether it be agriculture, whether it be, of course, finance, or whether it be in the area of law, whether it be quasi or otherwise. The fact of the matter is that they are here and they are impacting. If they were not here, then the likelihood that we would have had more to spread, more to share among the lesser population. In other words, if we were to take out that 100,000 and counting from the population of Trinidad and Tobago, then of course items in the store would not be less, or should put another way, so scarce. And of course, I have no doubt in my mind, because of the incompetence of this government, that gas and oil and all of the energy items that we need for industry and for reasonable living in Trinidad and Tobago would have still been reeling from the incompetence and the mismanagement of the PNM. The problem here is this, that we would have had, if the Venezuelans weren't here, 100,000 persons less to feed and to clothe and to shelter, when of course the scarcity of foreign exchange would have become a reality. That is what I am talking about. And therefore I decry those who believe that we ought not to reference and the myopia as to the impact. It has nothing to do with a humanitarian gesture to our neighbors. You see, because what is happening in Venezuela could have been avoided. That is no Grenada, where there is such a lack of resources they would bless as we have been, or Barbados, or St. Vincent, or St. Lucia, or Dominica, or even Jamaica, larger than us, twice our population. And don't tell me that are decrying or crying down our neighbors. Because you see, you will have to convince me that my argument is flawed from the perspective of availability of resources. And I'm saying that Trinidad and Tobago has more resources, or had more resources, to manage this small population and to make us, of course, the third most, according to IMF and World Bank protocols and or analysis and or assessment, that we are the third richest in the Western Hemisphere. And that is based, of course, on per capita income. That is to say, every single Trinbagonian, if we were to take the cumulative and convert all of our assets into dollars and cents, each one of us should be getting over 20,000 US per individual. That is how it is calculated. But I say all of that to say that Venezuela sits atop or on top of the largest deposit of, yes, that's right, you understand where I'm coming from, of crude oil and gas in the world. From that perspective, it could have been avoided. We having to accommodate over 100,000 of these citizens. And mind you, the present circumstances of Venezuela may well exacerbate that situation and have them come in here to, of course, partake and to share. And you cannot tell me from an altruistic perspective that I am being harsh. No, I am being pragmatic. I'm being practical. And it is against all of those antecedents, all of those factors. I'm saying that the present administration, Dr. Rowley, their recalcitrance and their inability to condemn, to say that this is unfair to Trinidad and Tobago, the country that voted them into office to manage our affairs. They have a duty, and that is criminal. That is treason in my view. How dare you take the people for granted and say that the pressures of mismanagement already of our economic circumstance, and then, of course, all these people have assembled in Trinidad and Tobago, coming out from Venezuela, a country that sits on the greatest and the highest and the most prolific and most, of course, sought after energy product, still, in spite of climate change and other agreements to reduce our emission and or use of carbon oriented energy supplies or sources. You can't tell me that. And so I say that you live in a fool's paradise if you tell me about the humanitarian aspect and totally ignore, because that is what Rowley and they want us to believe. They have mismanaged the economy. They have been giving us and reducing, of course, our quality of life and standard of living since they came into office. And then telling us that they're doing a humanitarian gesture to Venezuela. And you've heard Rowley repeatedly saying, well, listen, they are just 7 miles away from us. But they also have the largest deposit of, in their domain, in their physical space, in the world. In the world, people. And they have to come here and deposit over 100,000 of their residents. No. Whether you want to call me jingoistic or ultra-nationalistic, or you want to say that somehow I have a phobia for strangers, as what is unfolding in Britain today, when there's strikes and so on for or against people of a different, what I consider to be religious-based culture, the Muslims and so on, and therefore they're creating havoc in the United Kingdom today. The people, that is, because they have a phobia against, of course, Muslims, and of course the repetition of Islamic jihad and what is unfolded, of course, in the Middle East, and the declared dichotomy between East and West in terms of religious preferences. And the West is certainly in the corner of the Israelis, as opposed, of course, to the other elements, both in the Middle East and outside, in favor of the Palestinians and their plight. Let's go straight to the line. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Yes, Lennox, good night.
Good night to
I
you,
am
ma'am.
talking about Venezuela tonight.
Okay,
well,
go
at
ahead.
least not now. I want to talk about Tobago
Go ahead.
and the behavior of these people. You hear?
Yes.
I send a young person up there who doing little craft and other things. I encourage them to go there to sell, you know, because I used to sell up there years ago when my children was small, you know, when they was young.
Right.
I'm talking about all 2004 and thing, right? I used to do that. I stopped that long time. So I advise a person that they could go across there and sell the little thing now, you know?
Yes.
Because I used to do wholesaling.
Right.
I couldn't afford to stay in hotel for no days and stay there and all of that. So I used to go quick and come back. And let me tell you something, when you go to do that, they're telling you, hear them, who you sell, how much you sell it to this one for. And if you sell it to that person, I am buying none from you. But they want you selling 12 pieces for a price. They just want to give you price. And that going on right through here because people just tell me. They want to give you price. You hear? And it's horrors to sell these people. Good? It have outsider Latin going up there and selling things for penny and 6 cents. Where they're bringing in here. They're supporting them. All kind of little chopping rubbish.
This is a special corridor transformation news item.
The Organization of Americans. And they don't want to pay. And hear the joke. Hear the thing now, Lennox. They don't want you selling no way with them selling the thing. You can't sell the beach and all of that. You can't walk on the beach. I want to know what the hell do them. Fire burn all you. Because we could go in other CARICOM countries. And that is the law, eh? We could go other CARICOM countries. Guyana, Grenada. Live over there and work in the place. Better if he is a professional. Who the hell is all you? Trinidad and Tobago is our country. They just want to talk a set of bomb about them have gas over there. You're now talking about gas. If we search more, we get gas more in the Northwest again. Because all the gas in the world is in East Venezuela. I'm telling you something here tonight. It have all over, but all the gas come from East Venezuela. That is a time bomb. You hear? So I don't know whether they're talking about the oil and we just have to sell the oil. All you have nothing, all you far from the next door place later we. How the hell all you could tell people don't do this? The place hard. Young people going there to try. And I don't care who call and tell me anything. I don't care what all you say to me. I will deal with all you. It is so. Is we Trinidadians just go up there and spend we money. No tourists don't spend. I in business with this thing. Tourists don't buy much. It's we money they getting to survive. Is we making them rich. Every blasted body want to come in we place and take we over like this rich we come inside of here and how we suffering. It's like they don't like we. He don't like we. He don't like us. He have this vengeance for we Trinidad people, Trinidadians here. I get blasted vexed today when I hear what is going on over there. It is so, it's Trinidad and Tobago. You can't want we money and treat people so much of money to stay in a little guest house, all kind of $300-400 for 24 hours. It's best people go one of them Latin country, than to go in all your place. All they treat them we bad and we is all your countryman. I don't know why people just go there, you know. I telling you plain, Lennox, I damn vexed tonight. When Camilla, the UNC, lose the elections in 2020 and I see the place over there red, left and right, east and west, I say I'm not going back there. I get blasted vexed. And I know they're going to do the same thing for this general election. They only care about the Tobago House of Assembly, you know. And when the bell ring, it's going to be the same damn story. That's what I tell all you. I don't trust them boundaries. The boundaries in the south should split up how much time. He could do that. He do that in Tobago and split it. He try something, but he ain't gonna do that here. If he only do that here, dog eat his supper. I want them to go back where he come from. Get out of here. Blasted wicked. I'm Lennox.
Hey.
I'm going.
All right. I hear you. You are vented, of course. What you mentioned there seemed to be in sync with what I introduced. Of course, on this occasion, it is not directed at the Venezuelans, but it is directed at an attitude that is called xenophobia, and therefore
xenophobia.
Yes. The hatred of strangers, and I understand, because I would have had. Thank you very much, ma'am. I would have had a similar experience there some time ago. I could claim that with another colleague, a female of mine, so we started, of course, the recycling when very few were looking at the issue and the problems associated with those containers, those pet plastic that you use to serve or contain soft drinks and other items for consumption, for the consumer, for the purchasers, and so that's a kind of package. Obviously, it's a kind of package. But the fact is that we saw that very, very early in the game, and we had a warehouse and all that, and we decided, well, listen, we want to tackle, and we did tackle all of the landfills in the country. And then we had to go to Tobago as well, and we did that, and we made arrangements to, of course, transport the items from Studley Park. We were looking at Studley Park to Trinidad, and we were greeted with a lot of resistance, because the Tobago counterpart, I think, wanted almost to take over the entire operation. So I would have had an experience like that xenophobic kind of thing, because I'm Tobagonian. You coming to take something from us, and therefore we are going to defend to the hilt and use our let's say domestic and or cultural resistance to, of course, strangers, so that they don't survive in the way that they came there to do. But of course, they would just benefit entirely from the intervention. But let's go straight to the lines. President, good night. Welcome.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm calling from San Fernando.
Go ahead, San Fernando.
Yeah. About three things concern me here. I get a little worried about one or two things in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right.
If you have the talent, you will not have a job in this system under the PNM. If you have talent to run the country.
Yes.
Right? That is one. Two. One of the things that troubled me for a very long time is people leaving Trinidad just around the election time. You may see them you may get them, you see, I learned this from experience too. You may get them even before the election, but as soon as election time is near, like they suddenly disappear, and that is worrying me.
Okay.
Because that is a large number of people that will suddenly disappear on election day.
Yeah.
You just can't find them. So it is a concern to me because, if that is a very large number of people not in the island to vote,
Yes.
right, this could cause us to, for want of a better term, say that to lose the election.
All right.
Because remember, one vote alone can make you win an election too.
Yes, yes, yes.
So if that large number of people continue to do that, right, just leave the country just around. And, PNM have a kind of way that there's time that, there's time when people leave the country to just call the election and the next thing you know, we lose.
Yeah.
So, so that's a concern. That's a concern to me.
Okay.
Right? Now, the next point I want to make is on the issue of crime. Now, this issue here.
Do you know do you know? Are you aware of the figure? I am not, but I'm hoping that you might be able to. If not, of course, I'm sure a caller will tell us what the official number is.
I don't have the exact number right now. But my worry is, every year the crime situation the numbers seem to be high.
Yeah.
Right?
Increasingly, yeah.
So what I'm worried about here is that if that every year, how is it that the numbers could be building up so high? What will happen to those cases? Are those cases being solved? Are they not being solved? Because if your number in the last let us say 9 years of PNM rule, and you had each year over 300 or 400 as the case might be.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what will happen to all of those cases? There's a backlog.
Yeah.
So then, and then we're looking at the numbers this year, and the number is already, I think, past 300.
Yes, far past. I think it's closer to 400 in the 70s. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. So, are we? Is the police or the DPP anybody working to solve most of these cases? Because there's a real big backlog, if you really look at it.
Yeah, they call them hot and cold cases. They're cold cases. And they have those that they put, of course, on the back burner, never to be resuscitated simply because they can't solve it.
Yeah, Well, okay. Well, that's my concern on the crime. Now, the other thing is, I want the people of Trinidad and Tobago to know this. I can't remember the exact year. I think it was 2016 or 2015, somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. The National Center for Persons with Disability. No, that is. I worked at the National Center for about 3 or 4 years, somewhere there.
Okay.
Right. When Kamala, I think, was in power or something, yeah. But do you know that I think I have to get it right there. I think that one of the students in that school won a gold medal in Special Olympics.
Okay.
I wonder if people of Trinidad and Tobago know that. In the Special Olympics,
Trinidad and Tobago did well. I think on several fronts, in several disciplines, as it is called in the sporting arena. Yeah. Yeah.
So that should tell us something. And I was listening to the.
And waiting about the drought in the recently concluded Olympics. The drought, nothing for Trinidad.
Nothing for Trinidad, because you see, the country get very, I should say, but I don't want to use the term lazy, but, the government, like, everything that they touch is blight.
Yeah, I mean, I have drawn that conclusion. At one time I didn't believe in these things. I say it was like that superstition and that necromancy talk. Of course, as a practicing Baptist, I would be exposed to issues like these, but I never paid it any mind until when I look at the cumulative, what I consider to be sourness of this rowdy administration, and they continue, of course, to try to hoodwink we. Only yesterday, imagine Stuart Young giving him and this. You want to watch now? You want to hold him on Prince Street like Wade Ida's line on a Friday and give one cloud, but first you have to clean your head like Rowley. I tell one cloud, spit in your hand. I tell one cloud for that nonsense he talking. But go ahead.
Like this man, if you don't know the alphabet, you forget that F is for failure. You forget that F is for failure.
And they're so sour, they will end up getting a Z in the last letter in the alphabet.
Yeah, and then one thing I want to tell you, in the 70s, right, I think I watched, I think it was Hazley Crawford, training in Skinner Park.
Okay.
Right now, if you're doing 100 meters, you're supposed to leave some space.
Right.
Right? Because remember, if you take off from the block, right, and you reach the 100, you still need that distance to run. Otherwise, you can pull a hamstring or something.
To stop, like
right.
a train. You don't stop immediately.
Hazley Crawford used to train in Skinner Park, right? And Skinner Park was much bigger. Now that they went and redo the whole thing, they're going to get smaller.
Yeah, the footballers say it's easy to score a corner from the.
They were smaller because nobody could use the athlete strap.
No, right,
to run 100 meters because that will kill you.
Yeah, no space to stop. You might crash into something. My goodness. Yeah, the momentum of the run. The kinetic energy that you would have exhausted you might end up somewhere in the road and a car pass and lick it down. That is the kind of luck Rowley and them bring onto the people. Or should I say the blight that they have brought on the people. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are my 3 points that I want to make.
Thank you very much. Of course, yes, the caller that was calling during the course of that conversation, it was on my hand device, just as you called, and I didn't want a chance cutting off the caller to, of course, just acknowledge your presence. So if you wish, you can call back. Sorry about that, it's only right that I say that I saw your call, but the phone was occupied on the next line, and I didn't want to interrupt the current caller, which is, of course, is the last caller, making his contribution. But to get back, of course, into the whole question of xenophobia in the context of the Venezuelan here in Trinidad, and in, of course, Tobagonians accommodating a certain segment of the Trinidad population, I want to believe that that kind of experience is not the norm. So I want to make it very, very, very clear. That is not the regular occurrence. So Tobagonians are extremely accommodating. They are extremely, of course, congenial. And I say so because of my regular visits there and the fact that the entire place is designed for tourism. And there is an attitude of welcoming and accommodating. But there are exceptions to the rule, and of course, Miss Arima would have experienced that, and I would have, of course, at one time. Let's go to the lines. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Lennox.
Good night to you.
Let me make a long story short.
Go ahead.
From 1956 to 1970.
Yes.
On the equilibrium, the bankrupt the country. You was lucky, you come every year rainfall or it price went up. I think you get something like $27 billion. You go back and everybody say the government could afford to buy a house for everybody in Trinidad.
Yes.
But you know
per capita income, based on the per capita income. Equitable distribution, but that is only in theory. But in practice, of course, too many get more than the fair share and so leave others in dogged poverty.
Right.
Dogged poverty. Yeah. Go ahead.
In 1970 to 1986, they run the country bankrupt again. After all that big money,
yes.
be lucky if you come every year next. raise again in oil price. You know, by 1986, the back come the country again.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a cyclical tendency. Yeah.
And you are coming to power through that.
Yes.
There's one catchy and all that, but that's all a week.
Yeah, Desmond was the man who confessed. Yeah, as they are confessing all now.
Yeah. So it shows you clearly they don't have the ability to run no country, you know?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Look at what's going on here now. I don't know if you realize that during the last election on marijuana,
go ahead.
Marijuana, when you say you gain it legal, they start smoking already.
Right.
So it's use vote that put them there. But they bring it across that they're going to make plenty US. If they legalize the marijuana, they make no US. If they get US, they're going to be begging for money all over the place.
Yeah, I agree with you.
First place they're running the Guyana. So I don't know what they're going to come with these wrongs. They can't legalize. It's a waste of time talking about short and them brothers. I mean, what left to be said about them again? Are they celebrating 4 years?
Just imagine that. They have the audacity, the temerity, and the effrontery to claim that they're celebrating when they should be hiding their heads in shame. And, of course, calling an election with immediate consideration and immediacy.
And this man talk things like he here for World War II. in this country's darkest hour, he had already rescued Trinidad. Canada leave this country one step away from first world status, the whole world does that.
Yeah.
And he comes to talk that crap by the
Yeah.
But
Totally unprepared. Totally hoodwinking the population.
He should be using
designed to deceive.
Yeah. He should be using
and in a contemptuous and a very vile manner, having regard to
arrogant.
Yeah.
And arrogant.
Yes. All those are appropriate adjectives to describe this bunch of indolence and incompetence.
Nincompoops, but you know, I didn't understand that word at all.
Yeah?
Nincompoops.
Oh.
Remember, I didn't understand what you mean by that.
Let me give them another one that they may not understand as well. Asinine.
But we know that already.
Right.
And non-compass mentis.
Yeah.
I know all your terms, you know.
Yes.
I try to show you they are nothing. Them come to say
they're empty, they're hollow. A bunch of make-believes. Hypocrites.
I hear somebody calling.
Yes, another person is coming. So, thanks very much for your contribution. All right, let's go. Yes, thank you very much. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello, Lennox.
Yes, I'm here.
Good night.
Good night to you. Good night to you.
Lennox.
Hey.
These people, I don't know if the one that you're showing with the flooding, if that is tonight's program, because they're saying the date is the 12th.
And that flood is not tonight. That's just an example as to what.
No.
What's up? Yeah.
No, but it is tonight's program.
Yeah, it's tonight's program. Yes, it's tonight. Yeah.
Right,
with
because
the
date
flooding.
Is the 12th now.
Yeah. No. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived by that. Yeah. You know how it has been.
Yeah, yes. Right, because I was looking, because the date helps us, eh?
Yes.
When we have the most recent.
Right.
And it's saying the 12th.
So if you look on the headline, on the chat itself, you would see the actual date would have been today.
The date, right.
Yeah, the 12th of August 2024. Yes, sorry, today the 13th. So I apologize, today the 13th.
Today's the 13th,
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I realized that is how it look. All right, okay, sorry about that. My mistake. All right.
Yeah. Lennox, it was nice here in Tagoriqua.
Yes.
But if he can get on the YouTube chat, why he can't get onto the the ground report chat.
Yeah,
because they're on YouTube as well.
Yes, I find it. Yeah, so I'll ask him.
Because we miss him, eh?
Yeah. And he
yeah, I really miss his contribution on the ground report chat.
Yes.
You know? But some people can do without. Some people we miss at all.
Yes,
you understand?
Yes.
When you grew up hearing the story about the locusts and the grain of corn.
Yes.
Right? Well, some of them like that. But I miss hearing Tagorico. I miss him and the other Tagorico who they say he love Rowley.
Yes,
there are a lot of people that we miss on it, Lennox.
Yes.
You know, but I guess with time we'll get back everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
It doesn't matter. People are feverishly looking at their devices, learning the ability that it has, and how they can, of course, attach themselves to the ground report or the corridor, as the case may be. So I think in the fullness of time, adaptation, and as they say, necessity, mother of invention. So it seems necessary. Yes.
Because Lennox, a lot of people on YouTube, but they're not on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I keep telling them you can get it on YouTube.
Right.
You can get it on YouTube because I tell you, up to this weekend in the market, people asking me why they're not getting them on the radio. I say no, they're not on the radio again. YouTube or Facebook, they can get them on.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
But Lennox, here now, I was shocked today on when I heard Dr. Monilal, but it shouldn't shock me or surprise me. About the murder count is almost 390 something.
Mm-hmm.
Lennox, we are only in the 13th of August. There is only 365 days in the year, and we already crossed the benchmark.
Yeah.
And
I have lost count. I have lost count. Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah, and not a word from the people who's supposed to be looking after our national security. They fool the people, according to Dr. Monilal. They fool the people by bringing in Scotland. Keith Scotland cannot do anything. They're mamagaying them. Lennox. We are only in the 30th of August.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry about that.
I cannot understand. That's all right. And I cannot understand. But people wise it up, you know.
Yeah, of course.
People wise it up. Today on Mikey's Observers.
Yes.
Right? He was interviewing people on the streets.
Right.
And you can hear the frustration. But I hope, Lennox, that they take that frustration into the voting booth.
Yeah.
I hope that they take that. Because this is real nonsense. And imagine they have the temerity, they have the gall and the gumption to give themselves an A grade. An A grade for what?
I mean that's a classic case of madness, frankly. I mean, these
we
have
have a lot of that going around now,
yeah, they've gone insane.
We have a lot of madness going around now.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's the Sahara dust, I don't know if it's the flooding, I don't know what it is. It's bringing them out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
It's frustration of them. It's a one frustration to the next with them. You understand? Mm-hmm. And they get to know like they're mad. Like
it's a plague. It's a plague.
Torrazine. Like they said that's run out of it. Said that's run out of it.
Yeah, it's a
you
plague.
know sometimes it's best, Lennox. You know they say sometimes it's best when you say nothing at all.
That's right.
And that applies to some of them.
Yeah.
Oh, GC, BCs.
Except you remove all doubt. Except you remove all doubt when you do open your mouth. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's right, Lennox.
Yeah.
That sometimes you learn now to brush them off like flies, like fly gober on the window pane.
Yeah, but
you brush them off.
Yeah,
or like
but Mr. Lagos, people have grown accustomed and expect to hear them talk that hogwash. So it's now comic relief. It has morphed into some kind of comic relief. Yeah. People would say, listen to that ass, and then go away. Yeah.
I call him the Mikey. When you hear them so talking, it's just a laugh and turn your face, yes?
Yeah.
You really have, because if you go to answer them, Lennox, you're going to put yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
And I ain't have no intentions of putting you or your program in any kind of trouble.
Great.
You understand?
Yes.
And that is I respect your program, Lennox. and that is how it's going to be. Right? And I think I get the same level of respect from you.
Oh yes.
And I'm not going to do anything to respect your program. You understand? So who want to come after me? Feel free. You like fly. I wonder if I should say it like fly shit on a window pane. I'll just brush you off.
Yes,
you understand?
Yes.
But Lennox, let me tell you something, as I said, I just hope people take that frustration into the voting booth.
Yeah.
Because it is getting overbearing now. Lennox, I don't know how much more that we can take. When Kamala Prasad was there, every Monday morning, every day, and twice on a Sunday, is Kamala had to go. He bolted this to her chest. He bolted that to her chest. You understand? And today nobody can even hold on Rowley to bolt something to his chest. Rowley he's not taking it on. Once he gets his salary, once Hines gets his $50,000 a month, that's all they're interested in. Nothing else. And the perks of office, that is what they went there for. I remember in an interview with Keith Scotland when they asked him why he threw his hat in the ring. You know what that shameless man said? To keep the UNC out of office. Is that why all of us keeping the UNC out of office? For the murder rate to be climbing? Lennox, I am absolutely sure we have August, September, October, November, December. 4 more months again to go. 4 months and maybe some weeks. And I am absolutely sure it's going to reach 600. I am absolutely sure. And it is a sin and a disgrace that our streets are flowing with blood and tears. It's a shame and extortion. But I want to ask a question here tonight, Lennox.
Yes, go ahead.
An A grade for what? Crime? Extortion?
Ludicrous.
Crime?
Absurd.
Yeah, the whole, crime covers murder, home invasion, everything. You get an A grade in that. I give you an A grade in that.
Absurdity to the hill.
You got an you got an A grade in failure with the economy.
Yes, I tinted around this morning on the ground report, yes, by saying that he really meant, because when he tell you jump, you have to stand up, and when he tell you open your eyes, you have to close it. Well, of course, when he said that the guy A grade, he was referring to, of course, all of the iniquities.
When he said the run is a stand up.
Yeah. That's what happened.
Stand up, don't move.
So they believe in what they execute. Yeah, so when he say he gave an A grade, he means for all the destruction, disaster, pain, ache, agony, and of course the slaughter that he has brought.
That is what they got an A grade for.
Yes, on the people.
The failure of the health system.
Yes.
The failure of the economy.
Yes.
The failure of the education system, social system, every single thing.
Yeah.
He got an A grade in failure. But Dr. Bonilal gave them an F. I was searching for some other letter to give them, but I still haven't come up with anything yet. And I didn't get to hear the rest of the ground report this morning because electricity went by us just before 8 o'clock. And it didn't come back until maybe about 10:30.
Stereotypical of incompetence. Yeah.
So we lost, So I'll have to go back now and get the program and look at it to hear, what it is went on after the 8 o'clock hour.
Yes.
Right? But Lennox, I don't know. It's just people biding the time now.
Yeah.
It's clear.
It's clear. It is.
Just wait.
It is
and as
conspicuous
I said,
as rain when it falls on somebody's house. It's just clear. Go ahead.
Yeah. And as I said before, and I'll say it again before I leave Lennox, I just hope they take that vengeance into the voting booth and vote out this government. Because Lennox, let's face it, there are some people that feel that the PNM deserve more than an A grade, right? If there was I think A plus, A plus, they believe that. In their heart, they believe PNM did a good job. And we have yet to see what is the good job that this PNM government has done. Because that a school was built, everything, have you noticed, Lennox, that everything that they put up, every structure that they put up, something is wrong with it. Look at recently, that new building around the Savannah with the health ministry. The whole bloody thing was leaking. Because that is the blight. That is the blight that they are.
It was overwhelmed,
Yeah, that is the blight that they are. Lennox, it was nice chatting with you.
Yes.
You take care and have a good night. Take care.
Yes,
Lennox.
yes, indeed, yes, indeed. That is our external correspondent. Yeah, that's our external correspondent, who of course has always been dynamic, has been of course very articulate, and of course well learned and well researched. And sometimes when I hear people like a fellow called Mr. Polo Spain, who boast just like Rowley. If you hear Rowley, every single speech that he would have made, you'll hear him say, as Prime Minister. If you're a Prime Minister, you don't need to say that. You could speak in the third person, but it's always I as Prime Minister, I as Prime Minister. And that shows that the man never expected to be Prime Minister. And of course, he is suffering from a serious inferiority complex. But let's go straight to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome. Welcome. Oh, sorry about that. I may have inadvertently, of course, disconnect you, caller. So you can, of course, call back. But the fact of the matter is that this morning I was very, what I consider to be sarcastic, and I'm being mild here. My sarcasm had literally no boundary this morning on the ground report, because of this so-called A-grade fiction. But let's go straight to the line. Pleasant good night. Welcome.
Mr. Lennox,
Hey.
good night.
Good night to you, my friend. How do you hear me? All right. But I hear myself loud on your system there, but I'll...
Yeah, Mr. Lennox, I
I'll
don't hear you. I don't hear you.
Okay, right, good. Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Lennox, listen now. You know, lately I look at the composure of the Prime Minister now, Mr. Rowley. I have noticed that he's very quiet on the issue of Venezuela. You understand?
Yeah.
And I was looking at Stuart Young also, and when he gave himself an A grade, right? But he forgot to add two S's to that now, right? What happened is what happened is this. I looked at his composure too, and you can see they are very disturbed because of the situation that is happening in Venezuela. And by the way, what was your young stepdaughter? We don't hear nothing about she neither. But anyway, that is besides the whole thing. Listen, we have real issues in this country here, and we have to do something about this, because right now this country is in an absolute mess.
Yeah.
From the time them came in office in 2015 to this very day, what they have done is destroy this country. You understand? And every time Mike PNM seems to come in office, they always seems to destroy this country, and we always had to start from scratch all over again. And that had to stop. That have to stop, Mr. Lennox, because I mean, look at the state of affairs in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Look at the state of affairs.
I was just passed a note. I was just passed a note from my staff assistants here that a murder just took place in John. Again,
you see what I mean?
Again,
you see what I mean?
Certifying what you're now saying. I mean, it is current. It is a running narrative. But go ahead, my friend. I just thought I should intervene.
Yeah, it's very disturbing.
Yeah,
you understand, because you this man came into office, right? And this man talking about doing so much good things for this country, and how Kamala and them was so bad, right?
Yeah.
But yet still, the reverse is true. Because look what's going on with you. Yeah. You come into office and you literally mash up our whole country.
He sees in others.
He
sees in others that which is in him and them. That is what has happened here. And the population was hoodwinked because he sound good. No, of course, today he is irksome in terms of to the heirs and dangerous to our heirs. But then he sound good because he was tackling Manning. He said that he's a corruption buster. He was prepared, of course, to tackle Calderhart and Udicott to find out whether or not a hotel was a part and parcel of Napa's construction, and of course questioning the diplomatic center, and of course Pina. Remember Pina, the prophetess? Yeah. Yes, all of that. He was of course protecting the public's purse. Today he's a corruption promoter. That's what he is. But go ahead, my friend. Yes, go ahead.
Listen now. Let's just use it. I had to correct somebody, because this person, a friend of mine, because he's a staunch PNM. And he tell me about Kamala, and Kamala say, listen, let me tell you something. All you always accusing Kamala of all kind of things, right? Thieving, all kind of things.
Yeah.
I said, but who in office really last 9 years? I say, is your prime minister in office and I mean see nobody get locked up? I say, but look what's going on with your government and your thing. He or she mouth one time. Me tell me nothing.
And of course, they have to face reality. And I'm going to make that point clear when you will have completed your presentation.
Yeah. Anyway, I go on. Anyway, have a best time, Mr. LENNOX, and fire burn this whole PNM boy.
Yes,
and is that?
Yes, indeed. Yes, and is that indeed? Yeah, I want to make the point because too often, even with ardent, experienced contributors, that people are not seeing what Bowley and they are doing, and some people would have wanted to give them a plus in the sense of what we know a plus means in reality. I beg to disabuse of that. You see, the very people who may be making gestures and generating body language and possibly articulating such a position, no, conscience is a hell of a thing, you know. I remember Tom Jones' tune, memories don't leave like people do. They always stay with you, whether they have been good or bad. Let me repeat that. It's Tom Jones' song, yes. Memories don't leave like people do. They always stay with you, whether they have been good or bad. You see, I am saying that against the background that the very people who are claiming that they somehow are disconnected to the reality, it is exactly that. It is theatrics. It is histrionics, in other words. It is playing the ass, in other words. They know in their quiet moments, home, etc., it is not far-fetched, it is not rocket science to recognize that their conscience will, of course, have to not just override them, but be on steroids. Because they know Rowley and they have been able, of course, as tenuous as the argument continues to be, to the point where it is so thin that they could sit down on the white line in the road and hang down the foot. Yeah, that's how thin their arguments are. But nobody in their right mind or in their right conscience could literally and worse yet believe, whether they got it from Rowley or any one of his miscreant minions, cabinet or kitchen cabinet. The fact of the matter is that your own circumstance will tell you that things are not good. And to give people the credit that they are so tunnel visioned, that they are so absent-minded, or put another way, they are so illusionary that they will generate the delusion that the recipient of the argument or what they are saying believes that that is legitimate and that is a true reflection of their belief. Hogwash. They have a conscience. They have to go home and sleep. Rowley and they, of course, for them, is par for the course. For them, they will call it a strategy. A strategy capable of landing them in jail. So it is a strategy for criminal behavior and the promotion thereof. But you and I, the recipient of all of these issues and conduct, must not for one moment accept that the ordinary person who may be defending the indefensible believe that they don't have a conscience and therefore are not seeing and are sincere about what they're saying. Impossible. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Yes, good night again.
Good night.
You're talking about conscience?
Yeah.
Yes. But they get themselves tied up in this thing with this mafia. They have to continue. Jump high, jump low.
Yeah. But you have just reinforced what I'm just saying. That they know.
Yeah.
They know. But
yeah,
they will project an image.
I telling you that mafia, they get themselves in there.
Yeah.
They have to continue and go along with it.
Right.
I want people to understand that.
Beautiful.
No, you was talking about the borders.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me predict and let me tell them what is going on. These people really coming here now, right, to hustle hard to get money to go other countries like Spain. They're trying to get over into the United States, crossing this river there in Mexico.
Yes.
And passing through a place called
Rio Grande.
the Darien Gap.
Oh, okay.
You ever hear about that?
Nah, I hear about the Rio Grande.
All right. It have one called the Darien Gap. That is in Panama.
Oh, okay.
They're going through the forest.
Oh, yes. I saw.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah, I saw Al Jazeera's documentary on that and the amount of torture and exposure.
Several documentaries. You could research it.
Yes,
People who listening and want to learn about the Darien Gap, you could research it and see how these people have business. They're brave. They're trying. They want to reach the United States. So when they reach Panama, right? After they leave Colombia and go over into Panama, they're crossing this jungle. But due to the situation there with that voting and all of that, because it's Panama, together with Chile, Argentina, etc., I believe Paraguay is who
Paraguay is part,
the meeting.
And Brazil,
the meeting in the US.
Yeah, and Brazil as well. Yeah.
Because you see these people fed up at them in the countries, only we fools here welcoming them still.
Yeah, it is not xenophobia.
And we paying their fate.
Yeah, it's not xenophobia.
Right? They
it's
don't
been
know
real.
anything about them.
Yeah.
You're saying something, Lennox?
No, I'm saying it is not xenophobia. It's about being practical and defending, of course, your quality of life and standard of living. Once 100,000 of them say, I mean, you are affected one way or another because they come in to take from you. They're not adding anything. But go ahead.
That is here in Trinidad.
Yeah, here in Trinidad I'm talking about. And I expect that in surrounding countries
nice
as well.
About this thing, you know.
Yeah.
People in this country must understand why these people want a resolution in other countries here in the region, the Latin American countries. Forget about CARICOM. They're going there. Them other CARICOM countries. It's only here in Guyana they come in.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going Grenada. You don't hear them crying out, there's people in my place. Them no, they don't go there. They don't go Barbados. Yeah. I even asked people on the ground, Barbadians, who I met here. They said only have a few of them. You could count them. Right? So they don't go these other countries. So they don't have no problem like how we have them here.
Yeah.
Right? And these Latin American countries fed up at them because they're committing bad crimes in these countries.
That's right.
A friend of mine last week, Thursday, a young man who used to come here, my children friend, they stab him. 30 stabs. Stab him to death in Guyana. Yeah. And the young man with his girlfriend and baby 2 years old, the girlfriend pick up 6 stabs, rob him. Just robbery. You have to stab him so much? People fed up with them in the countries. All over the place here in Latin America. They have it hard with them.
Yeah.
They're doing all kind of thing. And Colombia and Mexico is where have the most of them because they must reach Colombia to travel on to other countries and then reach Mexico to cross this Rio Grande.
Nicaragua, right? Costa Rica.
Yes, they're hopping from country to country.
Even through Belize.
So what I'm saying, what I'm saying with here is our currency, you see the money, we will say they have value because we dotish. Rowley say we dotish. You see this TT dollar here in Trinidad and Tobago, we're floating and money coming in your hand fast. They come in here thirsty to get with money. They even put in the government in court, lawyers helping them some of the matters you hear is what you hear, but it has several matters. They even suing people and all, right? To get money. They're hustling hard. They will do all kind of thing to get this money, so that when they go in the Latin American countries, right, it have value, because our money have more value than the Colombian peso, right? It's higher than the Peruvian money, right?
Yeah.
Ecuador using US, but their cost of living very low, right? They're not going to Grenada, although their currency is more. They're not going there. They don't have no action there.
That's right.
They don't have no action in St. Vincent, Barbados. Here's the action place.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's the ones who really, really could, have the belly to cross the water coming, and they will band the waist and come in more and more now.
Yeah.
Because they get to find. Why you think it has so much of them here? They get to find out about this little place, Trinidad.
Yeah.
So the more they find out, is more will come here. They will come and they will do all kind of things. They will see them more than us. In east, west, north, and south. I hear south loaded with them, but here now, they will come all in the east. They will see them like that.
Yeah.
And the time will come when we can't do anything. So that border is, years are saying it should be guarded, and Rowley ain't guarded nothing, because it's all part of the plan. Good night.
Thank you very much. Well, people, of course, again, as we started the program with respect, of course, to some of the, and I'm trying to be as academic as possible tonight, some of the disadvantages of the influx of the Venezuelans, consequential of their migration out of Venezuela. Over 7 million of them, of a population of 27 million. So they have several more millions that can, of course, generate the level of instability, potential and real, for the entire surrounding region. She spoke of Latin America, but of course, we are part of the English-speaking Caribbean. Latin America, of course, fundamentally will be those countries that encased in the Central and South America. America, of course, being a continent of itself that is divided into three parts. North America, of course, that comprises fundamentally Canada and the United States. And then, of course, you have the Central America, beginning, of course, with Mexico, right down to Panama, and then of course you have across the isthmus, as it is called, you have of course beginning with Colombia, and then you have of course Peru, Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, Argentina, of course Chile, all these countries, Bolivia, and of course Venezuela, and of course you have Suriname. You also have, of course, Guyana. Many people don't know, even though Guyana is, of course, British Guyana, that is culturally and economically attached to, and historically attached to the Caribbean. But some people may not know, and this is good for the young people who are home and preparing themselves to get back out to school, that Guyana physically is not part of the Caribbean as such, but it is part of South America, and of course the Caribbean, the most southern island of that, what is called archipelago, ends in Trinidad, and of course begins in Cuba, which is considered part of Latin America as well, I suppose, because of the language and the history that would have, of course, tied them to the mainland, if you want to call it that, to Central and South America. Thought I should give a little piece of not just history, but certainly geography, so that people understand what we're dealing with. And of course, beyond that, it is nestled, of course, and why the situation is as it is today. Well, why they're speaking Spanish? Because, of course, the Spaniards were the one that first came with the coming to the New World, as it was called then, by Christopher Columbus, sponsored by the Spanish sovereign or the monarch there, and they of course sponsored 3 ships: the Nina, the Pinta, and the other one, and of course they came here, and the rest is history. But they prefer to occupy the larger islands, and that is why you have now in the larger islands, except Jamaica, of course, Spanish-speaking persons instead of course, otherwise. Let's go straight, of course, to the lines. Pleasant good night. I thought I should give a little history and geography as well. Pleasant good night.
Good night, Lennox.
Hi.
That was a good piece of geography history you gave there, you know. But what you neglected to say about all of South America and Latin America was the influx of slaves. Slavery was very, very common in all of South America.
No, I was referring specifically to the language. Why the language is such? Yeah.
Oh, the language.
Yeah, the language.
Even Venezuela.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Spaniards' influence, the Spanish influence. That is what I was getting at. But go ahead. Mm.
But Venezuela had over 100,000 slaves, and they worked in the cocoa plantation.
Yeah.
And even when slavery was abolished, even when Venezuela became independent in 1811, they kept slavery going till 1850s or something like that, and then they eventually stopped it. But you know, in Venezuela and maybe in other parts of South America, I don't know, but notably Venezuela, prostitution is legal and it is regulated in Venezuela, and it's not legal in Trinidad. Prostitution is illegal in Trinidad, and yet we have a lot of human trafficking with Venezuelan women. And I say this because in my village, we are inundated with the Venezuelans. We have no crimes against Venezuelans. We don't see violence against Venezuelan women. In fact, in my village, a lot of Venezuelan women hook up with Indian guys and Afro guys. And a lot of these women, they're 19 and they have 3 kids in tow. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this because it's like they're trying to assimilate, but a lot of them, they have no interest in going back to school because they don't speak the language. They're not learning new skills, and most of them are working in bars. And when you they stand out a lot because Venezuelan women dress very differently. But today, from Trinidad women, but today, our Trinidadian women, it's really hard to distinguish because now, I don't know, like we've lost a sense of decorum and how we carry ourselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I feel like we've become reckless in the way we carry ourselves. And a lot of the girls I see walking on the streets, they look like prostitutes. And I'm so tired of hearing cars honking at these girls. And they'll just jump in a car sometimes. And I don't know. This reminds me of like living in New York in the 1970s and 40s. You know, when you go to visit 42nd Street. I don't know if I've ever been in America in the 70s.
Well, I trust you have never been on Mali Street. But go ahead. No, Mali Street. Okay.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you know. But I feel like aside from Venezuela and the United States giving us all this humanitarian aid to educate those children, I feel like the United States doesn't give a crap about any of us in the OAS. Like Mr. Rima was talking about, she spends a lot of time talking about the OAS, and the OAS is a big deal because the OAS, the mission of the OAS really is to work together with the United States so we could share technology, so we could share information, so we could share education opportunities. And I don't really see that coming from the United States. If anything, I think they help encourage our suffering. And I'll tell you something, I feel like the way our Prime Minister operates is that he feeds into the oppression of our suffering. Mm-hmm. He wants us to suffer. He wants to keep us to be poor. And he caters to the white elite and the white, just the elite, the 1%, even the Syrians who consider themselves white. In America, they're not considered white.
Of course not.
But it's like he caters to that group of people, and I feel like he has a two-face. When he speaks to us like we're stupid. He talks to us and say, all you believe this? The UNC thieving all the money, and there's no money to run the country, and they're thieves and they're crooks, and you want them to come with their greedy hands and thief your money? And he makes that's how he talk like that.
Phantasmagorical. Phantasmagorical, but theatrical with the appropriate, of course, body language. And he looks so comical for those who are familiar. The esoteric will just troops laugh or simply want to hate him more. But go ahead.
I want to slap him up. I want to say, shut up, bitch.
Yeah, the man is a comic.
You're a leader.
Yeah.
Children listen to you. Speak to us, like you're educating us.
Yeah.
And then when he gets on television or he does he always pontifies himself like he's such a great guy and he's so great.
Yes.
He's playing a golf. You never see him at food pantries. You never see him, watching potholes and saying, we're going to fix this, we're going to do this. He in this country, under the PNM, since the 60s, 70s, 80s, since they became powerful and they were in charge for so many years, like a dictatorship, I would say they've never really spent much time working on the infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I mean the power lines in this country. You ever see electricity poles? They'll put up a pole and 2 days later they're leaning on the side.
Yes.
Or they'll put street signs up and all the street signs are covered with weed and overgrown bushes.
Mm-hmm.
So and if street signs are missing, so when you try to drive with your Waze, they're telling you what streets, but then you don't see signs on the road. None of this matters to them because they want to keep us lost and confused and poor.
Yeah,
that's what they want.
While they steal the patrimony of our young people.
Yeah, and I always remember the Prime Minister saying, and back in 2015, 2016, he told that he was talking to the constituents and actually to all of us too. And he said, I don't want any of you to worry about the government. Don't ask any questions. Don't question us at all. You just live and I will run everything. Don't worry about the energy sector for it. Don't worry.
I am the best salesman. I'm the best salesman, the most qualified for Trinidad and Tobago. Hogwash, conmanship, shenanigans,
he would be a good used car salesman.
Connery, yes. My blasted miscreant.
The marketplace and sell a car to him, eh?
Criminal, yeah.
Anyway, and I feel bad because the newspaper, the media, they never really write these deep articles about it, questioning his authority,
Yeah, always superficial, like some superficial condescendency and groveling as well, and sort of giving stardom to pixie dust. Stardom to pixie dust. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I notice every week in the newspaper, especially the Express and other newspapers, the PNM will take out a whole page showing all the things they're working on and all the ministers who are busy doing work.
And when the UNC was doing that, Rowley had the most egregious and most vitriolic statements to make about that when they put up billboards to show what they were doing, etc. Yeah. He was annoyed. He was irascible. He couldn't contain himself. But today, trying to hoodwink us with incompetence and non-achievements.
He's unfit to be a leader. He
of course, clearly.
Unfit.
But he's suffering from an inferiority complex, You know that, he's suffering from an inferiority complex in reality. Because when I, for example, would tell him that he's a rapist and pedophile, we have seen where he has made several overtures to try to neutralize and to obfuscate and to generate an illusion that he is not what that term suggests. So he would talk things like the so-called victim. Listen, the so-called victim has vindicated him. that rapist and pedophile. But
Yeah.
go ahead, my friend.
Well, those are issues that he could never hide from. But I remember that girl. What's her name? Rhoda Barrett.
Yes.
Is it Rhoda Barrett? Yeah, I remember a few years ago, like when the PM first
Scum
came,
of the
she
earth
said that
he
he
is.
was.
Yeah.
Remember how she made comments about him? She said he was sexually harassing her.
Yes.
He made passes to her. The next thing you know, she's working with him.
Yeah.
What is she up to these days?
And that is how he does it at our cost, at our expense, utilizing the
she got
state
a big
resources,
job.
yours and mine, in order to pursue his licentious sexual predatorial agenda and character. Yeah.
I would believe sexual harassment is very, very deep and big
yes.
in this country.
Yes.
Especially in the offices.
I mean,
and especially in Parliament.
But just looking at those faces assembled by the PNM, by Rowley, you must know they must have something extra that is material for them to have any woman take a second look at them.
Yeah, and I would also say that in this country, a lot of women do move up the ladder very quickly, but sexual harassment is very, very much ingrained.
Oh, yes.
And it is masked with women being promoted, and they're promoting all these women. But if you pick up the newspaper, women are sexualized all the time.
Yeah.
And I want to make a comment, and I don't want to stereotype, but I'm so sick of seeing the newspaper picking up and it's women do like all of these commercials where they're banding up their hair and they have bananas on their head, like it's in the old days. I mean, I feel like we were trapped in this time bomb, this time zone that we can't get out of it. It's like the Aunt Jemima waffles, or whatever. We have that here going on right now, and it's the French and the rich people companies, the manufacturers that use those stereotypes to keep us like believing this is how we should look, this is how we should dress, and keep your place there.
Yeah,
all right, let me let you go because I don't want to.
Fashioning consumers to consume their produce. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just mere consumers. We don't have any power to do anything.
That's right. That's what
we're
they do.
Consumers.
Yeah. And they remain, of course, the elitists and the shakers and movers and decision makers in the society.
Yes.
We must be conscious and generate the paradigm shift that is required. And this paradigm paralysis must be dismantled.
I just wanted to say something very quickly. You know that, Yui, right? Everywhere you look in different countries, you'll see protests start at the university level.
Yes.
None of the Yui students ever protest for anything.
No, that's a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. I think the last iconic, and I'm using the term iconic because of its rarity. Iconic protest would have been Macandal Daga when he was at the university, and the emergence of the 1970s disturbances.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when did that go back to the 70s, right? Look at the students today at UE. Half of them can't read. They can't write a complete sentence. So I give up. Anyway.
So the more things progress, is more they retrograde. I mean, it is an irony, it is an oxymoron, but it is a reality in Trinidad and Tobago today. Thank you very much, of course, for that intervention. Yes, indeed, people. Of course, people, we have gone past 9:30, inexorably heading towards 10 o'clock. It appears that that seems to be the mean period, 2 hours. The corridor must engage in. I try to, of course, cut it down because of time and other commitment to the ground report having regard to the new dispensation that we have. But that being as it may, commitment and dedication continues to be the order of the day. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you as well, my friend.
On the World Wide Web.
Yes.
You are coming through as clean as a diamond tonight.
All right,
to interfere with. They intend to interfere with you tonight.
Well, they can't. Resilience, and commitment, and perseverance. Go ahead.
That's right.
Yes.
And as we say, that an old man once told me, but since we change it now to a senior citizen told me once in this life that perseverance and endurance is to the end and not for the swiftest.
Beautiful, man.
And
The
when
race,
it
the race
becomes
belongs to those who can endure to the end. Yes, that's right. It's not disrespected. Like the hare and the turtle example.
Right.
Yes.
From Sesame Street.
Yes, yes.
So, Mr. Lennox, I joined you a little late because I know normally when I join over the night, I see sometimes there's something done or finished.
Right, yes.
But I only
just
hope
everyone
hope I change your conversation. But I want to just.
But this is what this is all about. It's about as much variety as possible so that people have the widest exposure to some of the realities of Trinidad and Tobago today in particular. But of course, we can expand it to wider and farther afield. Go ahead.
Yeah, so because I've been listening and around the medias and the frequencies that parents are seeing trouble for school books.
All right.
It is a burden. It is a very big task this year to really put books in school bags. But I ask myself, right? $7 billion allocated to the Ministry of Education, and the wage bill for the teachers and them, it ain't even $3 billion for all the teachers. The expenditure of stationaries and other toiletries for the schools and them, it cut right back down. School repairs and facilities in the school to make teaching a comfortable and enjoyable environment is short in coming. And then the Minister of Finance come back to the second budget and ask for more money that make it $70 billion, the highest budget ever read in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, right? And they celebrate 9 years. 9 years are governed. And yet still, a simple thing like education, you've seen it, you're feeling it, and people know about it. The healthcare system, they want to reduce the expenditure, and just imagine that $400 million they're boasting at right now. They want to reduce that. What do you think of going with the citizens? The senior citizens, who whatever way they're contributing in building this nation, they are now on the poverty line. They are just getting something just to live, eat, and barely live. And we as a society, right? I want to listen to certain media houses and talk show hosts. They try to change it, and the callers of them change it and say, what do you want the government to do? So I want to ask you a little question, Mr. Lennox.
Go ahead.
Let us ask, why it is we the people, and this is a no mercy billing, why we don't go out there and do it ourselves and help ourselves? But election coming, why we have to vote for the PNM for? Why we have to vote for the PNM members of parliament and put them in parliament? When they are not dispersing money for the corporation, the UNC-led corporations and them, and they're suffering them. And in this rainy season, it have work to be done in dredging. Then you see the 22 and it asks this on the morning show. If it had 22 PNM constituency, 23, why it is the PNM people don't pay the property tax to the corporation? It has 7 corporations. Show me the new local reform, how it work in the PNM area. But you're seeing them hustling to go and pay no property tax. And telling we know, we have to find it to subsidize we. So I want to ask tonight, always listening, the Laura Manatee Field gas revenue, and all the revenue from the ethanol and methanol plants and them, where that going? And Stuart Young, I just want to ask him a question tonight. how long that drilling rig was done in St. Madeleine? Eh? You don't want to invent it, you don't see it? Eh? It's under the UNC. Put that and was training drillers and getting work for them. We did just talking and telling them to come and drill on the energy sector in good hands. And Mr. Stuart Young, although really for wrecking the country, but I want to go through it piece by piece, but another night. Thank you, Mr. Lennox. Mr. Lennox, how Mr. Puna going?
Fine. From the information we have, we wish him a speedy recovery and a return to, of course, making his very sterling contribution, both here on the corridor transformation and on the ground report. So we wish him, I trust that his family are not as distraught as in such circumstances that one should be, because of the human situation, but at the same time, we wish him all the best. But he is recovering slowly. I think we had him on very slurred in terms of his voice is a bit slurred, not as dynamic and vibrant as we know him to be. But of course, it appears that he is on the up as opposed to the down.
Thank God for that. And God will pull him through and to see that we gain power and a better day for each and every one citizen. So everybody have a pleasant night, and we have plenty to talk because the countdown is on.
Yes, indeed.
12
and
counting down.
Yes, indeed.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Of course, I've always said it, and I will continue to say to do that. I'm always amazed by the level of intelligence and the level of knowledge. Put another way, knowledge. I'm going to say know-how, but the word should be knowledge. That is reposed in the ordinary person who simply wants to get, of course, an opportunity to vent. The technology has been able to bring that out, because most of us tonight, including myself, would have been, of course, maybe reading a book somewhere, watching television, our favorite program, etc., but not being able to share that which we know. Because you see, I spoke about the widest participation. I spoke about, of course, the liberal and the liberation nature of education and knowledge. And I think tonight is a classic exemplification of that, because we went all over the globe. We show in every aspect why it is we are in the situation that we are in. And of course, the common denominator is that the Rowley administration must go. We have also, of course, extrapolated, which of course requires some additional, let's say, ventilation as far as understanding that the people who defend the indefensible, who defend the Rowley administration, are really even Rowley, and even of course the ministers and the kitchen cabinet elements know of this. But for them, the greater prize is, of course, capturing government, being able to manipulate the resources of the country. I'm being slow here deliberately. Accessing the shakers and movers in the society, making decisions for the entire society, but always with, and I'm going to be very, very specific here and deliberate. Always because they recognize that they can line their own pockets in the process, not to being able to get that opportunity anywhere else. In other words, the windfall and the voluptuous living and the sudden acquisition of wealth that they obviously could not have been able to acquire if they were in a different circumstance are so alluring, are so enticing, that they would prefer, of course, to sacrifice you and I and their oath of office in order to stay where they are and to continue to do us evil. So, conclusion, the first order of the day is to get rid of Rowley and his criminal gang. That's the first thing. That's the first order. Because we know that they consciously have been underperforming, or put another way, they deliver poison, pain, ache, agony, merely to stay and to, of course, stay in office, because it's about power, and they recognize that the power, having been addicted to it, line their pockets, their friends, family, those who they prefer, and rather, and more significantly, through the process of nepotism and cronyism. That's a fact. You see, they will never, and why would you be able to identify that as a pellucid or irrefutable reality? But you see, when they are claiming, in the face of all of the monolithic and multiple and multifaceted evidence to the contrary, they will never say that they met $10 billion in reserve and what is the situation today, except of course in a budgetary presentation, which of course is what I consider to be an infrequent occasion, so not sufficiently repetitive, in other words, to do what? To have it stick in people's minds. But that is more designed for the international agencies on which we depend, and countries on which we depend for our ultimate survivability in terms of being creditworthy and in terms of borrowing monies in order to satisfy their greed and their mismanagement. That's all that is about. So they never emphasize. Our job is for you to understand that you must ask those critical questions. If they're claiming that they have performed, as indeed we saw where a fella giving himself a A grade and the government. And here it is that the last caller just said that the highest budget in terms of money figures has been by this government, quite apart from the highest amount of murders, highest amount of dengue, highest amount of flooding, highest amount of even nature seem to have gone against them in terms of the Richter scale, and of course earthquakes, etc. And while we will attribute, some will say to nature, as Rowley would say, that is stupid talk, but he could never, of course, find an argument that is sufficiently rational to say how come that when the PNM is in government, from a statistical and of course evaluative position, that more murders occurs than when any other government, whether the NAR that took over for the first time from the PNM, the UNC under Pandey, or indeed Kamla Prasad Bisesa. How come that there are more murders? There seems to be an affinity, an association, a nexus between murders and the PNM being in office. Of course, we only will say that is stupid talk, but the reality does not go away, because the statistics don't lie, just as the truth cannot be dismissed easily. But the point about the highest budget is significant, and that is why I believe it should be regurgitated and then of course sent to you via this medium, so that you do your own assimilation, analysis, evaluation, and draw your own conclusion. You see, because it was Rowley who said that he came into government to do more with less. An impossible, of course, equation at one time when it is convenient for him, when he had, of course, to find the money to pay the civil servants. But that being as it may, asinine as the notion is, but there were people who accepted that simply because it really suggested that one thing only, that he is a frugal, that he's a penny pincher, in other words, and that he will, of course, stretch the dollar. In other words, value for money. What is the reality? But apart from everything that has crashed, but one of the bases that he continues, and I want you to be conscious, one of the bases he continues to, of course, project onto the population, that somehow he is a penny pincher and, of course, doing well and at the same time looking after the people's business, quite apart from saying that you have to be lucky and you have to be fortunate. It is not a privilege for people to be on welfare, and he will consistently regurgitate the amount of money that people benefit from in terms of the ministry or the budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Social Development in particular. But it also tells a story as to how indurate, how hard-hearted, and how stone-headed and how stone-hearted this man is to use the Ministry of Social Development as an example to show that incidentally has always been there. Since the invention by the United Kingdom of the so-called welfare state, people, the welfare state recognizes that there are persons within a population who, for one reason or another, whether it be genetic, whether it be congenital, whether it be by some accident during the course of life, are unable to make their contribution, like, of course, the able-bodied persons who would be forming part and parcel of the labor force, and therefore the state has a responsibility to, of course, take care of them. Why? Because they must eat, they must drink, and they must survive in such an environment. That is why. But to choose that as a yardstick, to use that as a whipping, as a whip, a mental and intellectual, if you want to call it that, because I know that they are deliberate, but inhumane, to use that as an example of the magnanimity of the Rowley administration. It is not only disingenuous, it is not only dishonest, it's not only disrespectful to the thousands that among us that cannot take care of themselves, and if, of course, the state does not do it, it means therefore they will be added, of course, to the criminal elements in the society. Let's not waste time, and therefore exponentially increase our crime and criminality situation. No matter what the police say, they cannot be everywhere. They are not ubiquitous. It is not like the wind. And even the wind is sometimes blow harder in some places than other places. But of course, we live on a planet that has an atmosphere that has, of course, oxygen all over. So we live in that, and therefore we breathe wherever we go. Except, of course, if you are locked away in some place where oxygen is not available, then of course you cook. But the fact of the matter is that this government engages in that kind of hogwash and that kind of deception and want intelligent people to, of course, accept what they are saying. Let's go to the lines, and then, of course, I'll continue along that course. A pleasant good night.
Yes, Lennox.
Yes.
I had just a call in once again.
Yes.
People hardly calling. Yeah, fine. I'm a load of calling.
No, that's all right. That's
They're
all right.
hardly
That's all right.
calling.
That's all right. That's all right. The longest journey begins with a single step. The longest journey begins with a single step, and of course, I know where the problem lies, and that is to say the inconsistency of the program over the month. So I know that. So don't be too perturbed about that. Over time, I'm sure that we will be able to have or return to where we were, just as on the ground report right now. So let's not be bothered about that. You are making your contribution. I am prepared, of course, to go the distance. And
and
it's after 10 o'clock.
About 2 minutes to 10.
Yeah, it's after 10.
So let me jump in quick before you go.
Yes, go ahead.
I had to say something to Miss Madras,
go ahead.
Right?
Yes.
I heard you mention that the OAS don't do anything. Yes, they do. Look, they did something the other day, but they ain't get through because of the voting. You see, we want people to learn about that organization. You know quite a lot, right? It's only you and I will talk about this organization. If you notice, Miss Madras, the callers that calling in, they cannot converse. They're not conversing. Lennox is a teacher and he teaching his days now. He teaching. And they're not uttering a word about that. Right? So how you talk, you will talk about it, and you don't really stress much. You just jump to other things. And you could, I find, you could really educate, a lot. A person on the chat say that. But what I want to tell you again, the OAS does do things. Miss Madras, these people who come from next door here is due to Rowley big mouth when he come out and say here is not a refugee camp, that they end up dealing with him through the US, end up dealing with him. It's true that statement he made, and they tell him he have to do something to see how we could have these people stay inside of here. They put an order and he had to follow it. So you can't say they don't do anything. Because when these people reach in our waters, not when they mash land, when they reach in the waters, they have rights. So this is why we have to talk out for him to protect the border line in the water, not the land Trinidad. When they mash land, they're in Trinidad, yes, but it's when they reach in the water. So it's Rowley, because of Rowley big mouth with the foolish statement that put me in all this trouble. If he did hush him out and see how we could have handled them, deport them, and so it wouldn't have had that. So we get in trouble because of he with that statement. Try and remember. And there's the opposition too, that report all of that Guan Guaido. So opposition have power inside of it. We have treaty signed, and he have to follow the law inside of there. He could have how much law in here and talk sovereignty, and it's a sovereign nation and sovereign. Only them done CHP and them will like to follow him, will listen to him with his stupid talk, his rubbish. He have to follow what they say. So this is why he can't talk inside of there, because you don't only vote, You just have to give a speech, you have to talk and say things. And he can't talk inside of there. None of them, he know Amory Brown. Because if he couldn't go, he could have sent Amory Brown. But they're over here jumping up to Abu Teba Bataibo, however the damn song go. That's the road march for the emancipation. Abu Teba Bataibo. Right? Have a good night, Leonard.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, and I want to confirm the trend of thought there before I get back to the pernicious nature of this government and the deception that they're trying, or the wool they're trying to pull over the face of the sycophants and and those who are willing to give them a chance, having regard to their conviction over the years. Conviction here meaning that their commitment, because human beings are creatures of habit. Let's not waste time with that. And then mommy was voting PNM, daddy, etc., granny, and all that kind of thing. And over the years, of course, we develop a tradition. Well, of course, traditions are broken as well. Of course, it is called a paradigm shift as opposed to a paradigm paralysis, which, of course, Rowley and they wouldn't mind, because that will keep them in office. But we have a duty and responsibility to make these people realize that their circumstances circumstance is one that does not give any credence to justify the continuation of a Rowley administration, a PNM in this country, as a party, as a political organization that has had a long stint at the steering, so to speak, at the head of our affairs, at the helm of our affairs, because they simply are unprepared and unfit. Yes, the last caller talked about, of course, the OAS. Well, of course, she's quite right. He did made several faux pas. Of course, the Delcy Rodriguez matter, the sending back of potentially refugees who, of course, found themselves at the UN refugee office here in Trinidad. All of that telegraphed to the opposition in Venezuela in particular, because they would have been interested. It is not in Maduro's interest to be concerned about that, except, of course, people who are politically opposed to him. He wants to, of course, destroy. So when, of course, that plane was sent by Maduro, a military plane, to send back 82 of those persons, of course, the whole world and the whole region in particular, and, of course, OAS members thought that very despicable and very what I consider to be anti-international and anti-committal to conventions that either were signed in the United Nations, not yet in law in Trinidad and Tobago, but nonetheless, the country, once they sign, have that commitment, as we saw in the 1959 convention, and then later down, I think, is 1955, 1959, and then later 1966 convention on the whole question of the how the world should respond to persons who are fleeing from persecution from their respective country. And of course, Venezuela is a case in point, and it is those cumulative issues, apart from coming out when he came back from Chile. He at the airport said that, of course, the OAS Secretary General, he Rowley described that very powerful office in this region as, of course, a civil servant, something to that effect. He was very insulting when, of course, he suggested that there should be a resolution tabled at the OS. That time, Trump was, of course, in office by that time, expelling, of course, Venezuela, among other things. So he did, in fact, do a lot of stupidness to create this situation that we have here. And even when he tried to remedy it by opening up Trinidad and Tobago to registration and so on, merely to please and to get back into the good graces of members of that organization, or this organization called the OS, it was too much too late, because by that time, with that gesture, he has now exposed Trinidad and Tobago to all of the things that we are now, that we started this program with, that is the competition and the possibility of xenophobic conduct. I mean, because a country could tolerate up to a certain point, but to not know when the end will come. And then, of course, the present crisis in Venezuela, consequential of the last elections. I mean, no one could feel comforted or comfortable or optimistic that this situation will be able, is able to predict when it will end. So thus, of course, the unraveling and the concerns that are all over the place at this point in time, just as, of course, those Venezuelans are all over the place in Trinidad and Tobago. So I thought I should just bring up the line that is the poor policy position, the myopia of this government that has created this situation, and we should pin that on them. Let me get back, of course, to the situation with respect, of course, to the highest amount of monies that any government would have spent over the history of Trinidad and Tobago is by the Rowley administration. And I say so again against the background that he said that he could do more with less. Notice that, because when the UNC, from his perspective, were chalking up 65 billion budgets, Rowley was extremely concern. And what is his symbol to suggest that he's consistent? Guess what? I mean, it is ludicrous. The man has gone mad. He is duplicitous as well as he is bipolar and schizophrenic at the same time. All of those are disease of some mental disorder that clearly is not consistent with what is expected of a leader and a prime minister in particular. Because remember, he told us, and he keeps saying that even recently, that because he has a smaller cabinet than that of Kamala Persad-Bissessar, somehow he has saved Trinidad and Tobago money. Let me repeat. This ass, this nincompoop, this asinine specimen of inhumanity, this insane individual called Keith Christopher Rowley, because he has a 22-member cabinet, he is claiming that it is smaller than the 22 thereabout members of the Kamala Persad-Bissessar cabinet, and therefore he's saving Trinidad and Tobago money. You know what I say? You rationalize that, please. You rationalize that, quite apart from the fact, as I said, that none of those who are sympathetic, they don't even speak about it because they are sympathetic for the wrong reason. It is more emotional and historical and cultural and behavioral. That is to say, mommy and daddy voted, or a fella might have a CPEP contract, or indeed a government contract of whatever sort, believe that he must now, don't matter what the circumstances and don't matter how crippling the rest of the society, the majority of it will of course be subjected to after all is said and done, because time will tell, and time will of course bring a level playing field as to the reality of Trinidad and Tobago, consequential of these missteps and faux pas and incompetence and impotence and mismanagement of our resources. None of them will say that the UNC left 10 billion, and if they don't want to say that, they could say that the PNM met 10 billion in 2015. They're about 12 months, over 12 months of import. That is the international standard. You measure the health of our economy by the ability to import, because without importation, no country is an island unto itself, nor of course can it satisfy all of the needs and wants of a society. So therefore, the 10 billion that they met there, where is it today? Well, conveniently, they will tell you it's 5 billion now, and of course, regardless, the fact of the matter is that there is a substantial reduction over the period with the advent of Rowley. But they will not tell you that. And that, to me, is where the crux of the matter is in terms of a firm, a sustainable, durable, and irrefutable argument. All the talk they talk, because they could, of course, concoct and make up and say, well, listen, they did this and they did that and so on. But where is our foreign reserve today, Rowley? That is the question we must be asking. That will cover all of the nonsense they're talking, that the economy, of course, is on the upper and looking as though it headed north. They must tell us as well, the Heritage and Celebration Fund, one of the gestures of going inside, or the impacts of going inside of that Heritage and Celebration Fund, tells international, of course, financial agencies on whom we depend, of course, to get money borrowed at good interest rate. A good interest rate is critical. Going into it tells that there is a level of desperation that is telegraphed to, of course, these international agencies, that the government will go cap in hand to get money borrowed, regardless of their contribution to whether the Andean Bank or any multilateral or bilateral financial institution, whether in Europe, the United States, and any other part of the globe. Understand that? So therefore, we must ask the question, where, if the economy is doing well and you did well, why is it that you cannot have our reserve back to where you got it, of 12 $10 to $12 billion. And more significantly, the Heritage and Civilization Fund that you have dipped into and taken out, of course, about $1 billion US. It is not sufficient for you, Imber, to tell us that the Heritage and Civilization Fund is back to where you met it in 2015. That is semantics and an insult to our collective and individual intelligence. If you are honest and if you are sincere, you will level with the people and say, yes, it may be back in terms of the figure. If it's 5 billion that you met there, well, it's back to 5 billion based on the investment team that was managing the fund, just as UTT would, of course, invest people's money into instruments, international, regionally, and elsewhere. But you are dishonest when you said that it is back there, full stop, without telling us that it is still short of $1 billion, and therefore if that $1 billion was added, it is supposed to be $6 billion. I will end here, people. I will end here. The time check is now, of course, 16 minutes past 10 o'clock. So when I say 9 o'clock, boy, we go to 10 and then elsewhere. So people, thanks very much, of course, for your contribution. Thanks for your listenership. My apology to those on Facebook. I did belatedly, of course, connect the system to Facebook because I simply omitted to do so in the early part. So you might have missed some early part of the presentation tonight, but of course, nonetheless, let me just conclude with the video. No, I should say the audio of this video that is playing. It is, of course, a past one, but it demonstrates the disaster that is Trinidad and Tobago today. It demonstrates, of course, the reality of Trinidad and Tobago today. And I think we could rest assured that the Kamala Prasad Bisesa administration would have taken all of these factors into consideration and never make the kind of faux pas and the kind of deliberate, simply because they are people-centered, in spite of what Rowley and they may say or try to say about them. Let's go straight, of course, to that what I consider to be apocalyptic video that has been playing, but without the audio. That is how destructive the PNM is.
Residents of Tobago and northeast Trinidad are facing the full brunt of thunder showers associated with a fast-approaching tropical wave. Violent rainfall started at midnight.
Look why the flood is taking place in Port of Spain. The polar South Kidney. Look at here. Look at this. And this is the compare by the lighthouse. Right?
After yesterday's torrential downpours in the entire country, South Trinidad is still trying its best to recover from the tremendous amount of floodwaters that are currently ongoing. Behind me you can see vehicles trying to get their way through the tremendous amounts of floods, but some of them have actually stalled in the midst of it all.
A scene that has not occurred for at least the last 5 years. The eastern main road in Guayco in the vicinity of Blue Mountain waters inundated with water.
Yes, people, of course, so we have come to the end of today's
as the next political
program.
leader of the PNM and by extension
tomorrow, of course, on the ground report, and then tomorrow night once again.
Hold on, boss, hold on. You could talk English?
Yes. Everything is being camera. The PM is not doing nothing for this country. All your schools not completed. Look at the potholes. Look at crime situation. Vote for me, Kawe, for a better country.
This is a song about a man named Kawe from way down in South. This fella called Kawe from way down south. Kawe is a fella, the people talking about. Now he joined the PNM, they love him all the way. But all them in the PNM supporting Kawe. Rowley for Kawe, Dimmer for Kawe, Struck for Kawe, Fire for Kawe. Listen what I say, the whole of the PNM for Kawe, for Kawe, for Kawe. Yes, for Kawe. Oh, yo, yo, yo. Hey, hey, yo. Kawe is the real man. Kawe have a plan with foresight and vision to uplift the nation. Everybody calling him by name. And all them in the PNM riding him for fame. Camille for Kawe, Paula for Kawe, Shafa for Kawe, Marlene for Kawe. Listen to what I say, the whole PNM Women League for Kawe, for Kawe, for Kawe. Yes, for Kawe. Oh, yo, yo, yo. Hey. Yeah. People up in the beat, all them love Kawe bad. They wouldn't want him in water and run him out of the yard. People up in Lavantie, they want a new MP. And Kawe is the man, nobody better than he. Fitzgerald for Kawe, Franklin for Kawe, Dylan for Kawe, Coffee for Kawe. Listen to what I say.
Yes, indeed, of course, that the lyrical content speaks for itself. You take it wherever you wish. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And don't forget tomorrow morning, the Gong Report, Andy, Mike, and myself. And of course, we'll be back here tomorrow night on the corridor transformation. Sorry about the protracted program tonight, but was very, 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 very interesting as far as I have seen from the callers, and of course, those of you who are now back.
Forget who give out your numbers, boy. Time to fix the problems in the country. I'm very fed up.
I am Nirmal, reporting for Massive Go Signs Daily News.